Okay, today we're going to talk about the risks, real and perceived risks of nuclear energy. But before we do that, we need to define what risk is, what perceived risk is, and we're going to look at some examples in our everyday experiences and then talk more detail about the nuclear energy. If we're trying to decide or evaluate risk, we might ask, which is a bigger risk, something that is extremely harmful but almost never occurs, or something that does minimal harm but is very likely to occur? So obviously more information is necessary to evaluate the risk. We want to know, what does it mean to be extremely harmful or minimal harm, and how likely is very likely or not is very unlikely. So one way we can do this is to compare the risk of drug-induced fatalities versus motor vehicle crash fatalities in the United States. And when we're comparing two types of risk, we can simplify those comparisons by making one of the two factors constant. When comparing the risk of harm, we often focus on the worst case situations to determine how much harm can occur. So in this case, the amount of harm that we are comparing is death, and so that is equal. So then the question is, which one is more likely to occur? Based on the data that we have nationwide, in the United States in 2004, significantly more people, about 40% more people, died in car crashes than from use of drugs. Due to safety regulations and the development of technology resulting in safer vehicles, the number of motor vehicle fatalities has significantly decreased. Unfortunately, the number of drug-induced fatalities has increased to the point that there were 17,000 more, or more than 50% more, drug-induced deaths than deaths from vehicle crashes in 2014. So those are statistics based on the entire U.S. population, which is helpful to identify trends, to make social policy, to write newspaper articles, to report on, but that doesn't help us determine our individual risk of something happening. We can use technology, regulations, good decisions to decrease the risk of harm by decreasing how likely the harm is to occur. So if your risk involved in motor vehicles is influenced, if you're the driver, by your age, it's influenced by where you live, your driving habits, who you drive with, the vehicle you drive, how well and how often and how far that you drive. In terms of drugs, if you don't use illegal drugs and you don't misuse prescription drugs, your risk of drug-related fatality is extremely low. Okay, another thing we need to think about, remember there's a difference between risks and perceived risks. And perceived risks are based on emotions, fears, lack of information, and or misconceptions. The example I have is that some people won't swim in the ocean due to a fear of being attacked by a shark, but they wouldn't hesitate to ride in a car.